What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today it's PFL number 5. This season's fifth event, the main event here. MacDonald versus Tibau, full card predictions and the betting preview. We're going through the whole thing. Super excited for it. They have the odds released, thankfully, so we're able to get these predictions up for you guys. I'm actually really pumped for this card. Looking into it, I'm like, wow, PFL is stacking their cards, and there's like some great action. Honestly, PFL's giving Bellator a run for the money for the number 2 league in the planet. Like 100%. 100%. PFL also gives that $1 million tournament opportunity. There's just a lot of options with PFL, which makes me a very big fan. Guys, if you have not yet, smash that like button, goal on this video. We're looking for 80 likes. It's PFL. I know a lot of people will be tuning in. At least 80 likes. Honestly, I want to break 100. So be generous with that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe here too. Shout out everybody watching live. Shout out to everybody watching on replay. Love everybody. Thank everyone for tuning in. And we're going to start it off. First fight of the night. All the way down at the bottom here. Let's keep it going and let's start it. Sadibou Sai, Alexey Kunchenko, former UFC fighter in Kunchenko, takes on Sai, who's not necessarily too bad as far as like well-roundedness. Better grapplers can take advantage of Sai, but he's a long dude, and he's a guy that you really want to get to the ground. 6'3 versus 5'8, 80-inch reach versus 70-inch reach. As far as the skill set, I mean, Sai is a rangy striker who likes that lead hand out, does have that kickboxing skill set, which is pretty solid, and is very comfortable counter-striking. Also, good in both stances. That's in it. When you can switch those stances, that's a very big advantage. On the other side, with Alexey, you have a Thai style of striker who's pretty technical and patient, definitely more of a pressure forward style. I feel like Sadibou Sai having such a range advantage, the younger guy, just so many advantages. Granted, hasn't had that high level of experience. Obviously, 8-5-2 versus 20-2 record wise. I get it. I get why people would probably be on Kunchenko on the other side. And odds-wise, he is the favorite at -170 to the +140 underdog. But for me, I have to ride with Sadibou Sai. You can't sell me on Kunchenko all that well in this matchup at 37. Granted, I think it's not an easy fight for Sai by any means, but length advantage being so significant, even if Kunchenko clinches, looks to get the fight to the ground, I think that as tall as Sadibou Sai is, he's not an easy guy to put on his back. So I'm going to ride for him. I think he gets the win by a decision, technical kickboxing display, and it's going to be from range. He's a dog, so what did we say the plus money was at? +140 to -170 for me. If I'm looking to throw down Sai, definitely a fun little underdog. DraftKings has him actually at a +150. So it depends where you go. The odds right now only available on DraftKings and betonline.ag, at least from what I'm seeing on Best Fight Odds. So if you are looking to throw down, do it now because there's definitely some good betting opportunities. And this is the first fight of the night. I'm riding Sadibou Sai, underdog play, +150. And I think that he really should come through with that supreme length advantage. But definitely not an easy fight against Kunchenko. And if Kunchenko somehow finds a way to get this thing to the ground, could be some trouble. We'll talk about the prop bets when they release during the weigh-in recap, which will be coming up tomorrow. So we'll go with Sadibou Sai here, and he'll get the W by a decision. Let's keep on moving. Tom Lawlor, who is way out of his prime, like so far out of his prime, and he was out of his prime years ago, and he's still fighting. He takes on Jordan Young. Jordan Young is a young, fun prospect on the rise. So many things to like here on the side of Young. High-level grappling, dangerous submission game, and honestly, decent boxing. Like, I'd call him a solid striker. On the other side, Lawlor is a southpaw. And he is real scrappy and has that pressure-forward style of fighting, but, man, he hasn't looked great as of late. Tough loss in the last fight. Carlos Júnior, I think, submitted him pretty, 4 minutes in. Not terrible performance, but not a great one. Before that, he lost at the Ron Win. Inactivity. Tom Lawlor doesn't seem to have much of a chance here. You got an 11-1 prospect versus the 10-8 Tom Lawlor. Record-wise, Lawlor's got a terrible record, but he's not that bad of a fighter. It's just he didn't have a ton of fights, I guess, when he was in his prime, and then, lost 3 straight. You go from 10-5 to 10-8. He's about to be 10-9 after this one. I'm going Jordan Young. It'll be a 1-round submission. Could potentially go 2 or 3, but I'm going to pick first round for Jordan Young. I think he's levels above, and he's also 12 years younger, 4 inches taller, slight reach advantage too. Everything in the favor. Minus 350 favorite is Young over the plus 275 Tom Lawlor. I think that's somebody you want to parlay up. We'll do parlays at the end of the video, and we'll talk about them, and I think we have some fun parlays here for PFL. I like Jordan Young, and I like him by submission here. Second fight of the night. I love how PFL's cards are just stacked from bottom all the way up to the top. You got 10 amazing fights. I'm really becoming a huge PFL fan the more I watch and the more I cover. Magomedkerimov versus Curtis Millender. So what does Kerimov do that Millender is terrible at? Wrestling. Kerimov can wrestle his ass off. He is a Dagestani wrestler. Animal went on top. Definitely grappling skill set that's going to be very difficult for Millender. A good striker who's athletic for sure and nasty head kicks from range. But, man, he struggles with wrestlers. The last fight, MacDonald takes him down and submits him. Before that, he loses to Sabah, and now you're taking on a real tough matchup here with Magomedkerimov. We're just going to call him Magomed because that last name is way too long. He is the 2018 champion, 11-fight win streak. He's not losing to Curtis Millender. He should win by first-round submission. That's 2 back-to-back submission picks, and I think we're looking at some fun grappling. I'm personal big fan of high-level grappling, and I think in this fight you're going to see Magomed put on a very dominant display against Curtis Millender. I like Curtis, and I feel bad that he's in this terrible matchup, but it is what it is. That's the fight game, and PFL gives you no breaks. You better be ready for the toughest of fights. Minus 1,000 to plus 600. It's essentially a lock. It's what Magomed does good. Curtis Millender is just not good at. Magomed for the victory here. Let's keep it moving on up throughout these prelims. Stacked first 3 prelims, and we still got 3 prelims left that are all great fights. João Zeferino versus Jason Ponet. I'm going to call Jason Ponet like Mr. Unproven because he's really not fought anybody all that great besides Ray Cooper, and it just wasn't close. Zeferino on the other side, I mean, he fought Gleison Tibau. He has some other fights against decent names throughout PFL. Hasn't lost for a while now, 3 years, almost 4 years ago. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. Good performance in the last one, I think, for Zeferino against a very difficult to deal with Tibau. At the end of the day, he was in the fight, and this is such a different matchup. Serious drop in competition. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, João Zeferino, should dominate this fight. Get it to the round. I'm picking submission. Another submission play. I'm thinking there's a lot of submissions. On the feet, Jason Ponet is not a bum by any means. I mean, he has that like karate-esque style with some pretty nice kicks, and he's also a southpaw. So for me, though, when you don't have to take down defense and you're taking on a very tough Brazilian with nasty submission skills, João Zeferino for the win by a submission in the first round here. That is my prediction for this one. I think we're looking at like some real impressive grappling, and there's just like some fights on this card that are true stylistic mismatches, and this is definitely one of them. Minus 300 to plus 240. Zeferino could end up being wider than that by the end of the week by a long shot. So if you want to bet him, I don't think he's a bad play here. So we'll go with Zeferino. Let's keep it moving, though. Martin Hamlet Nielsen, Cory Hendricks. Good fight. Very good fight. Cory Hendricks, you guys remember him from The Ultimate Fighter. Definitely do. I think he beat... I'm pretty sure he beat, now the name is totally escaping me, Roundtree. He beat Khalil Roundtree. They were teammates, too, and he ended up beating him. Recently won outside of PFL. It was over, I think it was ACB. He beat Carlos Eduardo, who was 19-6. I watched that fight. There was some bad moments for him in that matchup. He takes on Hamlet Nielsen, who's a fun prospect on the rise in this light heavyweight division for PFL, 7-1 as a pro. With Nielsen, you see a fast starter who's extremely good with the wrestling. Physically very strong, powerful and heavy on top, and his arm triangle is a deadly submission. Cory Hendricks has a pretty well-rounded game, some decent kickboxing too. Definitely has that pressure-forward style. He is a little bit too square at times. Granted, in this matchup, I don't think the striking matters all that much. It's going to be Hamlet Nielsen getting the fight to the ground and controlling. I pick second-round submission from Martin Hamlet Nielsen here, and I do think it'll be a pretty good performance for him over Cory Hendricks. I'm excited for this fight too. Let's see the odds here for this matchup. Plus 170 to minus 210. Hamlet Nielsen is a steal right now, guys. He's going to dominate this fight. It's a great stylistic matchup for him. So many great stylistic matchups. We'll talk about the parlays towards the end, because we have some that you're going to want to play very soon because the odds are going to get wider and wider. Probably in the next 6 hours from when this video is released, the odds are going to be totally shifted. But guys, even if you're all watching later, there's still going to be some real value in some bets here. But let's keep it moving, guys, and let's get to the featured prelim of the night. Antonio Carlos Jr. Shoeface takes on Pesao Vinny Magalhães. Great matchup. Vinny Magalhães in his prime. Fun guy. Made it to the tournament finals. Lost, unfortunately, I believe, to Sean O'Connell. TKO retirement there. He's a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. Credentialed. I mean, the guy is a champion with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, striking-wise, he's not bad. He's decent. It's stiff, but has some knockout power. Not the fastest. The chin seems to be fading. Has been knocked out in 3 of his last 4 fights, but thankfully, across the cage, he's facing a guy who has 2 wins by knockout ever, and I believe both were on The Ultimate Fighter. And he's not a striker. He's not a bad striker, but he's not a power puncher. He definitely has an improved striking game and a boxing-heavy attack, but the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills is where his skill set lies. Also, Antonio Carlos Jr. sometimes leaves the chin up high. So you have 2 excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners facing off. The prediction for this one is actually pretty tough. Odds-wise, we'll pull it up. It's plus 190 for Magalhães and minus 240 for Carlos Jr. I'm really in a tough spot here because I do think the better of the 2 on the ground is Vinny Magalhães. Striking-wise, pretty similar as far as the skill sets go. Neither guy, real knockout artist, neither guy has much of a striking arsenal that's that imposing to, the opponent. I do think striking-wise, pretty even. My thing is this: who is going to be pressuring forward? Who is going to be leading the dance? I don't know why, but at the plus money, I know Vinny Magalhães is almost 37 years of age. I know he's on, a bad run. He's won 1 fight out of his last 4, and he's been knocked out in 3 of the last 4. Granted, 1 was a TKO retirement, but still, he was stopped. He quit. He broke in that fight. Carlos Jr., 3 decision losses. He's been fighting the more high-level guys. I feel like the one thing that gives me some confidence in Magalhães is simply his natural size, though Antonio Carlos Jr. has fought all the way up at heavyweight. At 205 here, Magalhães has been there for a longer time. I do think he's the better grappler. If there's one matchup that I feel like Magalhães could end up pulling off, it would be this fight with Carlos Jr. I'll be honest with you guys, I want to see them at weigh-ins. So note this with a star. We're going to base it off the weigh-in, but right now I'm going Vinny Magalhães by a very close split decision. That is my prediction for this one. I am riding the dog Magalhães, and maybe a valuable play, but only with lower prices. Don't bet the house on Magalhães as an underdog, because at the end of the day, stylistically speaking, very tricky matchup. We'll see how they look on the scales, and we'll make a final decision. But if you are looking to play Magalhães right now, from what we've seen of both guys, I still think he has value. He doesn't have the risk of being knocked out necessarily with Antonio Carlos Jr. on the other side. But we've arrived at the main card. So if you guys haven't yet, smash that like button. Go on this video, at least 80 likes, truly 100 likes. New to the channel, subscribe here too. We cover all things MMA, UFC, Bellator, PFL, all the major leagues. We do live streams as well, and also cover some championship level boxing too. I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether live or on replay. I appreciate all you guys. And yeah, we'll be going over the locks towards the end of the video here. Who do I have with the potential Antonio Carlos Jr. and Cezar Ferreira matchup? Shoot, that would be a very interesting fight. We'll talk about that towards the end of the video. Let's get through these predictions, though, because we got 4 more. And Muntanchi Ferreira, Cezar Ferreira, takes on Chris Camozzi. Man, I am super pumped for this fight because Muntanchi Ferreira has improved tenfold. You saw the last fight. He destroyed Nick Roherick. He's looking insane. Have you seen the physique of Cezar Ferreira lately? He went from a welterweight to a light heavyweight. He is jacked. Looks like a Vitor Belfort physique. I know that him and Vitor were boys at one point. Knockout power in the hands Cezar Ferreira does have. Absolutely jacked, as I just said. Dangerous rear body kicks, and he also extremely good on the ground. and his striking skill set. So impressed at how much Muntanchi has improved and how the physique looks up a weight class. This is his money weight class. On the other side, Chris Camozzi, southpaw, with some sloppy boxing, a bit hittable down the center, and he's pretty stiff. Some decent kicks, though. That's kind of his best thing. Striking on the ground, he's all right as well. Does have a ton of heart, and he's a guy that always comes to fight. You cannot count out Chris the Kamikaze Camozzi. But in this matchup here, Cezar Muntanchi Ferreira has so many advantages. I just don't see a path to victory for Camozzi unless it's like some lucky, fluky, wild looping punch. He's not going to land that. It's extremely unlikely, less than like a 0.0005%. I'm going to go with Cezar Ferreira for the win. Knockout, round number 2 here. He's going to sleep Chris Camozzi in that second round. Odds-wise, let's see what we're minus 300, plus 240. I love a Cezar Ferreira bet. I really do. So potentially throw him down, and we'll talk about the parlays very soon, and he'll definitely be on some of them. Let's keep it moving, though. Featured bout of the night, Emiliano Sordi, Dan Spohn. Interesting matchup. Sordi didn't look good against Camozzi in the last one. And what does Dan Spohn bring to the table? Southpaw stance. Camozzi also brings a southpaw stance. That's why Sordi was getting hit so much. For some reason, I think the southpaws get to him a little bit. Could be wrong, and he could come out looking way better. He didn't look great in that last fight. He is the 2019 champion, but it's not 2019 anymore. It's 2021. Dan Spohn was a finalist in the past for the PFL. Decent kickboxing, a lot of lateral movement, definitely more counter-based striking. Sometimes the chin is high, and I've always felt Spohn sometimes gets buzzed a bit. Not that Sordi is steel-chinned either, though. He's been knocked out in the past. Honestly, super fun matchup. Sordi could come back with an absolute vengeance, but I'll be honest with you. 3-fight losing streak on the side of Spohn, 36, almost 37. It's not that there's really a ton of like supreme confidence in Spohn making a run towards the title. I just think stylistic matchup here and betting-wise. I want to see them on the scales. Another one, I want to see how they look when they face off, but I'm going to ride with Spohn for the upset. I have to. The odds are going to be too good, and Sordi just didn't look good in the last one against a southpaw. Plus 300, minus 400. I'm going to go with Spohn. I wouldn't bet on Sordi at the minus 400 tag. I am going to ride with Dan Spohn for the win. I think he gets a TKO here in the second round. I think he can put Sordi down. Granted, it definitely could go the other way. Pretty much a 50-50 fight here. Both guys could potentially be knocked out and hurt. We'll see how they look on the scales, but right now, the prediction, Dan Spohn. He gets to win. Underdog play, dog or pass fight, in my opinion, regardless of the prediction. Because at the end of the day, Sordi, yes, a good fighter on a great roll. Didn't look great in the last one against a southpaw in Chris Camozzi. Dan Spohn, tricky southpaw as well. Let's keep it moving, though. Let's keep it moving. The co-main event of the evening, Ray Cooper III, Nikolai Aleksakhin. What a fight. What a damn fight. This is the fight that I think maybe determines, like, the winner of this fight is probably, I'm predicting now, early lean to be at least in the finals. Ray Cooper III on one side, very good boxing skills. Definitely does have some knockout power, but his game is grappling. He's going to look to clinch up. He's going to look to get the fight against the cage, take his opponent down, and control from the top. But what does his opponent do just as well, if not better? Grappling. Sambo background for Aleksakhin. Solid striking skill set with like a bouncy style, and he's actually pretty fast too. The takedown defense is going to be no issue here. Nikolai Aleksakhin is just a terrible matchup for Ray Cooper III. He's taller by 2 inches, longer by 4 inches. He's 2 years older, both in their relative primes at this point. Ray Cooper III, though, he is the former champion. He won it back in 2019. Granted, did lose during that season. That was actually to John Doomsday Howard, funny enough. And in this matchup here, I don't think that it's like a Doomsday Howard, like fluke knockout type of thing. I think that Nikolai Aleksakhin, just technically the better fighter, beats Ray Cooper III by a unanimous decision. That is my prediction for this matchup. And let's see what the odds look like. Minus 140 to plus 110. Another thing that I think is valuable is the money on Aleksakhin. I really do think he wins here, guys, especially at that close money. He's going to beat Ray Cooper III. Stylistically, very good matchup for him. I am going Nikolai Aleksakhin for the win. Very slight favorite. Don't be surprised, though, if the odds maybe even shift the other way and Ray Cooper ends up becoming a favorite here by the end of the week. We'll find out, but I am riding Nikolai Aleksakhin for the win, the very slight favorite at this point. Main event of the evening. You have Rory the Red King MacDonald, Aries MacDonald, Rory, whatever nickname he feels like this week, MacDonald, because he's always mixing it up. He's a veteran of the game, though, just as like a young 20-year-old fighting against some of the top welterweights in the world. He's now 31 years of age. He has fought the best of the best for years and years and years. He's a very well-rounded fighter. Not many guys are as well-rounded as Rory. He's a good striker. He's a good grappler. He has a very good submission game. He is the true essence of mixed martial artist. And he's also really patient and does have a very calm style, which works well for him. On the other side, southpaw, who's very physically strong in Gleison Tibau, actually has some really good grappling skills and is a powerful striker if he can land. But he's not going to find a way inside. Rory MacDonald is going to dominate Gleison Tibau for 3 rounds here. We might even see maybe even a lopsided 10-8. Might even see a TKO if Rory finds that chin, but he's going to be patient. Rory's a guy, he'll accept a dominant unanimous decision. Reach advantage, 10 inches. Height advantage, 4 inches. Every advantage in favor of Rory MacDonald. He is going to win this fight by a decision, and I don't think it's very close at all here in this matchup. Let's check out the odds. -600, +400. It's not close. It's not close one bit. Overall, the PFL card, this is a juicy card for PFL. I'm giving this an A rating. This is an A-rated PFL card. Fire action. I cannot wait for it. And now you know what time it is. The parlay preview time. We'll talk about a couple of them. We'll also be checking up on that live chat. So feel free to throw in any comments and things that you're questioning about. And make sure to smash that like button too. We're looking for 80 likes at minimum. Realistically, though, I think we smashed that 100 mark. Who do I have in a matchup between Antonio Carlos Jr. and Cezar Ferreira? I am going Cezar Ferreira because he also brings in dangerous striking. That's my pick right now. We'll see at the end of the week how that ends up turning out, because could change. Young, Magomed, and MacDonald parlay. Let's check out what the money is at. Young, Magomed, MacDonald. All right, let's find out. We have Young, Magomed, and Rory. Yes, that's a lock parlay. Absolutely a lock parlay. I don't see it going the other way. If you are a little bit worried about Jordan Young, though, I do think maybe you could put Zeferino down on there. It's actually closer money and stylistically great matchup against Jason Ponet. Then with Magomedkerimov, he's a -1,000 favorite. And at the end of the day, Curtis Millender still can land a punch. It's not going to happen. It's extremely unlikely, but he definitely could. Some parlays, though, I want to get some juicy money two-fighter parlay. I want to find something good. I think you go Nikolai Aleksakhin here at the -140, and then you bring down potentially a play with Marthin Hamlet for +153. Aleksakhin Hamlet's not a bad one. Now, if you're like on the Ray Cooper train and you like him and you think it's a bad matchup, there's still other options outside of that. Could potentially throw down with Zeferino for a -103. You're pretty much even money there. You want to add in somebody else. Maybe you add in Jordan Young +153. This is a money parlay. You're making me want to play with him even more. Let's add in Ferreira +237. Should be pretty decent play too. Granted, 4-fighter parlay, both some strong favorites. And if you did add Aleksakhin back in, now you're at +478. Some money parlays to play really here, guys. I think all the predictions I'm feeling pretty confident. Obviously, I starred the ones that I'm waiting for the weigh-ins. It's the Spohn Sordi fight and the Carlos Jr. Vinny Magalhães fight. Overall, I'm pumped for this card more than any other PFL card in the past. I think it's because it just has like so many intriguing matchups, but some predictable matchups. And I'm really curious if any of the dogs can really come through. If you are looking for a potential dog play, maybe you want to throw down on Dan Spohn, and maybe you wanted to team him up with Rory MacDonald for +367. That could potentially deliver something for you. And at the end of the day, I don't really see a path to victory for Gleison against Rory. That would be so tricky. Sai over Aleksey. So I'm going to pick Sabito Sai, but I will say if Alexey can get the fight to the ground, Sai could be in trouble, but Sai is such a size advantage. He's so much taller and longer. It's hard to pick against him here. As far as if you did put Sai as a dog play, I think out of all the dogs, I like Sai the most. That was a more confident dog. Maybe you put Sai potentially down with João Zeferino for +220. There's some parlays that you really can make some decent returns on here. The lock parlays, like truly, I feel like it's hard for me to see Marthin Hamlet losing, and it's also really hard for me to see Zeferino losing. Hard for me to see MacDonald losing. Also pretty hard for me probably to see Jordan Young losing. So +195 for those four. And then if you wanted to bring in somebody at more close money, to try to juice things up, you add in Aleksakhin -140. I do think he's a great stylistic matchup for Ray Cooper III. Cooper III, let's remember, he was a high school wrestler, not a collegiate wrestler. Not saying that you can't be a great wrestler if you never wrestled in college, but something to note, he doesn't have that level, whereas on the other side, you have a very experienced Sambo grappler who's going to be a hellish matchup here. So +406, that's a money play. Granted, the more parlays you get. Somebody might get caught on the chin. You add Magomedkerimov minus 1,000. You know, he could get kicked in the face. He probably won't. It'd be very unlikely that he does. Maybe you add in Cezar Ferreira as well, plus 642. This would be a true, like, wild man parlay, I'm going to call it. But at the end of the day, if you are looking for some plays, granted, usually one favorite at the very least loses. It's very hard to go undefeated in predictions. If we do it, I would be absolutely stoked, and I have done it before with PFL. But the fight game is a wild one. These are some solid picks here, some favorite picks, and I think some money plays. Overall, this card is pretty exciting. I'm super pumped for this PFL action. If Sales and Verdum and Pettis was kept on last week's card, it would have been a great card too. I know, dude. I was so disappointed that that fight was canceled. Logan Paul was championship level. Okay, yeah, the Logan Paul championship, that wasn't championship level. That was just a hype train level. Luque versus Chiesa, early prediction. If Luque can stop the takedown, he wins the fight. Saiv over Alexey, yep. Sales, Pettis, Magomed, and Rory for sure. Yeah, I think Magomed, Rory, and then you could add in maybe Cezar Ferreira, Jordan Young. Oh, João Zeferino, man. You're going with the Madman parlay? Hey, get it, bro. Let's go. Size massive, 63 over 558. Yeah, he's 6'3 versus 5'8. Such a size difference. And it's hard to pick against a guy with that much of a serious size advantage. Overall, though, I think we're in store for a very fun card for PFL. That was the full card predictions. We went through it all. We previewed the betting. I will be doing the weigh-in recap tomorrow. We'll talk about some final betting picks, and we'll hopefully have some props released. But who knows with PFL? But we will talk about props a bit more tomorrow, and I will give you guys some potential plays that I think have some value. So smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here. You definitely got to stay updated with this PFL stuff because we got more videos on it coming. Also, the UFC Best Bets video is going to be coming out. Looking forward to doing that one. Just waiting for all the props to officially be confirmed, and then I'll be releasing that bad boy as well. Thank you all so much for tuning in. That's pretty much it for me today. You guys all have a fantastic day. Subscribe if you guys are new. Like this video. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next one.